Hello, everybody. Can folks hear me?
Yep.
Hi, it's Bill Mooney, and I am going to be a very silent moderator. I'm going to turn it over to the Vera team to start. We have some great content from these two groups. They did a lot of good work to pull this together. So, Team Vera Institute of Justice, please start away, and I will around 12:55. If there are questions, we'll start to prompt those questions. But you guys have the floor.
Well, Bill, thank you so much. I'm Sarah Schuster from Studios Architecture, and I will be introducing the Vera Institute of Justice project along with Lauren Farrell of Dunham Wolf, and most importantly, Lidia Shelley of the Vera Institute. This was a project near and dear to all of us, and I'm going to let Lidia and Lauren take it away from here just to talk about the project origin story and the real estate story, really what got this project running. Subsequently, we'll talk about the design side and how the project came to completion.
Thank you, Sarah. I will try to condense the story and make this big, beautiful story into a very short little story that you all can enjoy in a short amount of time. So I'll tell you a little bit about Vera and then why we moved and how we enjoyed our move and what it did for us and for our mission. So Vera is a nonprofit organization. Our mission is focused on reducing mass incarceration and fighting for criminal justice reform. Vera was formed in 1961 and historically was located in downtown Manhattan. It was initiated with a pioneering Manhattan bail project. So it was significant for us, the location where we are at that moment. In Lower Manhattan, we were near the courthouses, we were near the City Hall. But throughout the years, many things changed. Vera grew in its staff and its size and its programmatic reach. We, at this point, have over 60 programs that we work on. The programs are really varied and diverse in what we do, everything in the criminal justice realm and space. We have programs that aim to reduce jail population, that aim to reshape prosecution, to provide equal access to justice for people with disabilities, to promote justice for transgender people, to provide pathways to education, many, many more programs. And so as the focus of the mission shifted and we expanded geographically and nationally, we evaluated our real estate options and what it meant for us to be in Lower Manhattan and whether there was a more suitable neighborhoods and space for us. So we made a deliberate decision, quite, really like thoughtfully and deliberately, to end our lease early in Lower Manhattan. We were located in Woolworth, and to relocate to Sunset Park at Industry City. We made sure that it was a fit for all of our staff. We included most definitely the commute for staff, the variety of commute, including biking, commuting lanes, the proximity, the zip codes where people live, and also the type of property that we were able to secure in Sunset Park, with open floor plans, flexible layouts, everything that responded to the needs of our staff. So we really went to staff, interviewed them, asked them what they wanted, what they needed, did a needs analysis, and then we selected our space, and then we designed it, with our great partners from Studios and from Dunham Wolf. What we enjoyed about Sunset Park primarily is that it was a much better fit for us as a neighborhood. It's closer to the communities we serve. We, as you know, fighting mass incarceration is a lot about racial equity and just being close to the minority communities, the underserved populations was important to us. Being close to a federal correctional facility that is located in Sunset Park was important to us. And staff enjoyed being in Sunset Park and going out in the neighborhood, supporting local vendors. We brought our space to life with great images and artistic vision, which you could see later on through the images of our space. But we featured local Brooklyn-based artists, artists of color, artists that featured the justice topics and issues that we work on and that we fight about. That is, I think, in a nutshell, the story of our move, and I'll pass it on now to Lauren.
Thanks, Lidia. I'll just back up some of what you said about the real estate side of things. So Denim Wolf worked with Vera both as the broker for site selection as well as the project manager throughout. One of the reasons I believe this project was successful is that we started the process early and we backed up each decision with thoughtful analysis. It can be really hard to get support for such a huge location change as well as a work style change. However, by taking the time to tour multiple neighborhoods, look at the financial implications of the project, and really understand where the staff lives and how the staff works, we could provide enough data to support the move. So Denim Wolf first worked through a space program with Vera and then developed a preliminary project budget. From that, we identified 38 buildings that met Vera's size and budget requirements. After some vetting, we toured 14 sites and then determined that 7 of those 14 were worth final consideration. To help us narrow it down, we really focused on location and convenience, as Lidia pointed out, so bike access and proximity to the subway. We also created a heat map to show where employees lived. And from that, we were able to see that the highest concentration was actually in Brooklyn, which then led us to Industry City. And then I know Lidia spouted off some of the great amenities and the reasons for moving there, but you know, they have a gym on campus, bike storage, city bike parking, subway line nearby, outdoor space, service animals are allowed. But then also specifically to Vera, there's areas that are large enough for Vera to hold all staff events. And there's also options for staff to work outside of the traditional office. So outdoor space, benches, tables, there's conference rooms to rent, there's a food hall. Once we found a site and kicked off the project, Denim Wolf ran a typical team assembly RFP process. One thing that stands out, however, that was different on this project than other projects was that we wrote a DEI section into our RFP. And that was because Vera wanted to work with teams and consultants that went above and beyond equal opportunity employment and MWBE percentage targets. So during our interview process, which Vera was actively involved in, we were asking questions like how many people of color and women are in leadership positions in your firm? Do you offer DEI training? Do you work with MWBE suppliers and subs? And do you have firm-wide DEI programs, groups, initiatives that encourage staff to actively participate? I think I just want to emphasize that our role and Denim Wolf's role was only strengthened by the collaboration with Vera and studios throughout the entire project. The budget that Denim Wolf developed at the beginning of the project helped guide studios' design, and with thoughtful decisions by Vera, we were able to give Vera what they wanted and also keep the project within budget. And with that, I will pass it over to Sarah to show off studios' amazing work on the design.
Well, thank you for that lovely description of the project origin. When we came on board, there were a series of sites that remained, but Industry City was truly the focus. And there were several sites at Industry City that we ultimately test fitted until we came to Building 4, which is where Vera is now located. So from that shift from the Woolworth building to Sunset Park, just to give you a visual for those of you that are not as familiar, it was a culture shift. But there is connectivity to Sunset Park, there is connectivity to Industry City. And from there, we found ourselves again within Industry City. And the next slide just shows you there the finger buildings. I think those are the buildings that probably everyone is most familiar at this point, that have, they're very amenity driven on the first floor and connecting. And then second and above, there is individual lift access directly into the suites. So that was certainly an advantage for going into building 4 and taking over space on the 2nd and 3rd floors. We established the project goals with the leadership team at Vera and Dunn & Wolf at the table, one of which, and the goal that I think we went back to most frequently, was really how do we feel the ambition of Vera upon entry, and how does someone leave the space feeling inspired? So with that, we started with Industry City and all of the nice grit and history that Industry City provides. And if we jump to the next slide, you'll note that ultimately we took a lot of what the building was offering and just showcased that. So on the 2nd floor, it was an original concrete floor that was polished and honed to look like new. The 3rd floor was wood. Again, these are some of the idiosyncrasies of Industry City that we chose to embrace. Others are the large ceiling heights, because it was originally an industrial space, and the access to natural light. All of the windows are operable and had been replaced fairly recently. The mechanical systems had been upgraded just prior or during our construction as well. And so those were really the backbones of this project. But ultimately, our design was intended to just act as a canvas for the life and the art that was ultimately commissioned as site-specific, Vera-specific. And from there, it was about how were Verans going to engage within the space. And so there were a series of conversations with the larger Veran collective, a series of surveys that went out, and everything from establishing that a desk was just an employee's home base to how many steps it would take for every employee to reach the series of conferencing. So either a phone room, a medium-sized conference room, an open collaborative space, or the boardroom itself. So if we shift beyond the plan, this is your first glimpse at Vera when you step out of the elevators on the 2nd floor. Visibility from reception and security in general were certainly a consideration. Again, one of our project tenets were be safe, feel safe, and also taking into mind that we weren't going to separate public from workspaces. There are guests that come to the space. The architecture is really what stops one from continuing from the public space into the workspace. On this main level, again, where most of the public events are held, there is opportunity for coffee and for someone at reception to keep eyes on the guests, but still make them feel welcomed and comfortable while they're waiting for someone to greet them, come and meet them, and shift them into a conference space. So visibility, bearing in mind, or at least keeping cognizant of staff vulnerability so that they understand how they can exit the space or where are the zones that doors can lock. There's free exiting from, of course, the 2nd floor, the 3rd floor. The use of glass partitions so that everyone can see one another once they're on the workspace side. Keeping a large open stairwell. So this was a stair that was developed specifically for the project, and keep the life and energy of Vera in this public space. So the 3rd floor is not only the common pantry, but also a place for gathering for meetings, eating lunch, and having symposiums both during the day and after hours. As I made mention, operationally, safety was certainly a consideration, but accessibility was of note as well. So with that, most decisions that studios came to furniture specifications were reviewed with Vera's internal accessibility team, so that there was an understanding prior to move-in as to what the space could and would offer to staff. These were some issues that were beyond ADA accessibility or what is typical within the guidelines. And this is where it was critical working with Dunn & Wolf and having a great partner who was willing to go to the landlord and really fight on behalf of Vera and the project to ensure that the landlord was providing all that they should with regards to accessibility. And finally, it was just opening up these neighborhoods, the balance of open workspace to conference space, so that there was opportunity to showcase the art. I really think that the art is what makes this project so successful, and representing the Verans and Vera's mission. Just recognizing that this is an organization with a national focus, with a local presence. And as Lidia mentioned, I think commissioning Brooklyn-based artists was something truly special that happened towards the end of the project and is still ongoing now. The art is intended to be something that is both static and revolving. So there are gallery spaces that are going to showcase new artists over time. And just very quickly highlighting how we dealt with COVID. We had the luxury, as it were, to tour the space with the CoreNet committee and with the support of Vera leadership. Just being able to walk everyone through these neighborhoods in real time was certainly an unexpected quirk of this process this year. But something that I think we might use for projects moving forward. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Lidia just to close on how they're using the space. So they moved in the end of last year, but I don't know that the project has truly seen its full potential as yet.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I'll be very quick so that we have room for questions. I know we're almost at time for questions. We enjoyed the space quite a bit. You know, we moved in September 2019. This space is our headquarters, so it's the mothership for all of Verans. We call ourselves Verans. It's a special breed. So we all convene there for events, for gatherings, and we did so for the holidays in 2019 for a variety of meetings. We were quite ahead of time with remote work, and technology that is built into the space and lives throughout is really quite impressive and enabled us a lot to connect throughout different offices and with people who work remotely even before the pandemic. So we have phone booths, meeting rooms, small, big, large, even the open spaces, event spaces, the cafeteria has technology and microphones, speakers, screens where we can all broadcast those events and connect. We have a variety of work styles that are accommodated in this space. I don't know if you're familiar with nonprofits, but this is like a mix of researchers, which are introverts, and people who like to just hunker down and not see a lot of people, and then extroverts who provide technical assistance, are very collaborative. So the space really allows for all of that. Has collaboration zones, very like these buzzy community feel zones, but also quiet rooms, quiet zones. Accommodates a variety of needs. We have a mother's room, we have a meditation zone, we have, you know, quiet reading zones. So we really enjoyed the space a lot. During the pandemic, we have some people who are still visiting the space.